I am Connor, 34 years old, and my brother just told me my son isn't good enough to breathe the same air as his children. Before I tell you how I bought the entire resort company just to see the look on his face, let me know where you guys are watching from in the comments below. It was 6:47 in the morning. The sun wasn't even fully up yet. I was standing in my kitchen, the one with the laminate countertops peeling slightly at the edges, holding a mug of coffee that was way too hot. It was quiet. The only sound was the faint whoosh of bicycle tires on the pavement outside. That was Leo, my 12-year-old son, coming back from his paper route. He gets up at 5 a.m. every single morning. Rain, shine, sleet, or that bone-chilling wind we get off the lake. It doesn't matter. He's out there. He's been saving up for 8 months to buy a mountain bike. Not a new one, mind you. A used one he saw on Craigslist. He has this little jar on top of the fridge where he puts his earnings. He's proud of it. I'm proud of it. My phone buzzed on the counter. A single vibration that rattled against the ceramic coaster. I picked it up, expecting maybe a notification from my bank or an email from a client. But it was a text from Brent, my older brother, the golden child. I swiped it open, and I swear, the coffee in my stomach turned to acid instantly. Connor, Mom and Dad told me you were thinking of bringing Leo to the Oceanic Kingdom trip next week. Listen, don't take this the wrong way, but maybe you should sit this one out. Our kids have planned this for months. We're doing the high-end experiences, the dolphin swim, the gala dinners. Leo, well, he just won't fit in. He doesn't belong in that environment. It would be awkward for him and, frankly, embarrassing for us to have to explain your financial situation to our friends who are joining. We want a cohesive family image. Thanks for understanding. I stared at the screen. I read it again, then a third time. He doesn't belong. Embarrassing for us. My grip on the phone tightened so hard I thought the screen might crack. It wasn't just the words. It was the history behind them. This wasn't new. This was the story of my entire life. Brent was the star. Brent was the high-flying sales director with the leased Porsche and the house in the suburbs that had 2 guest rooms nobody ever used. Brent was the one my parents, Linda and Robert, hung photos of in the hallway. Me? I was Connor, the guy who dropped out of the corporate rat race 5 years ago to play on computers. As my dad put it, the single dad raising a son in a 2-bedroom apartment. The guy who drove a 6-year-old Ford F-150 because it was reliable. To them, I was the failure, the one who needed to be managed, the stain on the family portrait. The back door opened, and a gust of cool air rushed in. Leo walked in, his cheeks flushed red from the cold, his hands stained with newsprint ink. He was breathing hard, but he was smiling. "Hey, Dad," he said, pulling off his beanie. "Made good time today. Mrs. Higgins actually tipped me $5 because I put the paper on the porch instead of the driveway." He held up the $5 bill like it was a winning lottery ticket. I looked at him. I looked at his frayed sneakers. I looked at the brightness in his eyes, that pure, uncorrupted work ethic. He was twice the man Brent was, and he was only 12. And Brent thought this kid, this incredible, hardworking kid, wasn't classy enough for a theme park resort? "That's great, buddy," I managed to say, forcing a smile. My voice sounded steady, but inside, I was burning. A cold, calculated fire was starting to rage in my chest. "So," Leo said, walking over to the fridge and dropping the $5 into his jar. He looked at the calendar on the wall where we had circled the dates for the family trip in red marker. "Are we still good for next week? I know it's expensive, Dad. I have about $300 in the jar now. I can chip in for the gas." My heart broke, literally shattered. He was willing to give up his bike money to pay for gas to go on a trip where his own uncle didn't want him. I looked at the text message again. Cohesive family image. "Dad?" Leo asked, sensing my silence. "Everything okay?" I put the phone face down. "Everything is fine, Leo. Actually, everything is going to be better than fine. Go take a shower and get ready for school. I have a few calls to make." As soon as he left the room, I picked up the phone. I didn't reply to Brent yet. Not yet. I opened my banking app. I logged in. The Face ID swirled for a second, and then the numbers popped up. Most people see a checking account and a savings account. I saw those, but I also saw the holding accounts, the investment portfolios, the liquid assets from the software patent I sold 3 years ago, the residuals from the algorithm I licensed to 3 of the biggest tech firms in Silicon Valley. My family thought I was a freelance coder struggling to pay rent. They didn't know I was a silent partner in half the startups they read about in Forbes. I never told them. Why? Because the one time I tried to talk about my work, my dad interrupted me to talk about Brent's new golf handicap. Because whenever I had money, they assumed I borrowed it. So I stopped trying. I let them believe what they wanted. I lived simply because I liked it. I wanted Leo to know the value of $1, not to grow up entitled like Brent's kids. But today the rules just changed. I dialed a number I hadn't called in months. Elena speaking. A crisp female voice answered on the first ring. Elena was my personal asset manager. She handled the things I didn't want to deal with. Elena, it's Connor. Connor, I haven't heard from you since the quarterly review. Everything all right? Stock market is a bit volatile this morning, but your portfolio is up. I don't care about the market, I said, leaning against the counter, watching the steam rise from my coffee. I need you to book a vacation. Okay, she said, her typing clicking in the background. Where to? The cabin in Aspen? Or were you thinking of chartering the yacht in the Mediterranean again? San Diego, the Oceanic Kingdom Resort. The typing stopped. Oceanic Kingdom? Connor, that's a commercial theme park resort. It's crowded. It's not really your style. I know, but my family is going to be there. And I need to be there too. But I don't want the standard package. I want the Emperor experience. The Emperor experience? Elena paused. Connor, that package is $25,000 a night. It includes the cliffside villa, the private staff, the behind-the-scenes access. It's usually reserved for Saudi princes and tech moguls who want anonymity. Book it, I said, for a week. And Elena, I want the transport package too. The helicopter? No, too loud. The car. The Rolls-Royce Phantom. I want it on the tarmac when we land. Done, she said, professional as ever. Anything else? Yes. Find out who owns the resort. It's owned by the Sterling Hospitality Group. Why? My brother, Brent, works in mid-level sales. He's been bragging about landing a big client. Check if Sterling Hospitality is looking for investors, or if they have any distressed assets. I can check. Connor. What are you doing? I looked at the jar on the fridge. The jar with the crumpled $5 bills and the quarters Leo had scraped together. I'm teaching my brother a lesson about value, I said. Call me back when it's booked. I hung up. Then, I opened the text thread with Brent. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I could have raged. I could have told him I was a millionaire. I could have sent a screenshot of my bank account that would make his leased Porsche look like a toy. But that wouldn't be fun. That wouldn't be a payoff. I typed 2 sentences. I get it. Leo and I will make our own plans. Have a wonderful time. Sent. I watched the bubbles appear immediately. He was typing back. I knew you'd understand, bro. It's just better this way. Maybe we can do a barbecue in the backyard when we get back. Something more your speed. My speed. I laughed. It was a dark, dry laugh in the empty kitchen. You have no idea what my speed is, Brent? I whispered to the empty room. Leo came back into the kitchen, dressed for school, smelling like cheap soap and determination. Dad, I was thinking, he said, grabbing a piece of toast. If we don't go to the resort, maybe I can pick up extra shifts next week. Mr. Henderson said he needs someone to clean out the gutters. I put a hand on his shoulder. He felt thin but strong. Leo, pack your bags, I said, and pack the good shirt, the one we bought for Aunt Marie's wedding. Why? He asked Michu. Are we going somewhere? We're going to San Diego, kiddo. But, Uncle Brent said. Uncle Brent said we aren't part of his trip, I corrected. And he's right. We aren't. We're taking our own trip. And I promise you, it's going to be one you'll never forget. Can we afford it? He asked quietly, his eyes darting to the jar. I don't want you to spend your savings, Dad. That question, that simple, innocent concern for my financial well-being. It hit me harder than any insult Brent could have thrown. Brent's kids would have asked if there was Wi-Fi or if they could get business class. My son asked if I was going to be okay. We can afford it, Leo, I said, squeezing his shoulder. Trust me. Now go to school. We leave Tuesday. As he walked out the door, I pulled up my email. The confirmation from Elena had just landed. Reservation confirmed. The Imperial Villa at Oceanic Kingdom. Guest, Mr. Connor and Son. Transport, Rolls-Royce Phantom extended wheelbase. Total cost, $168,000. I stared at the number. It was more than Brent made in 2 years. It was an obscene amount of money for a vacation. But for what was about to happen, it was a bargain. The airport on Tuesday morning was a chaotic mess of humanity. It was the start of the holiday rush, and the terminal looked like an ant colony that had been kicked over. I saw them before they saw me. Brent, his wife Sarah, their 2 kids Toby and Jessica, and my parents, Linda and Robert. They were standing near the economy check-in line, surrounded by a mountain of luggage. Brent was yelling at a skycap about handling his golf clubs. My mother was fanning herself with a boarding pass, looking stressed. My dad was checking his watch, probably calculating how much the airport beers cost. They looked miserable. They looked like people trying very hard to look rich but suffering through the reality of being middle class. Leo and I stood back near a pillar. We each had one carry-on bag. Should we go say hi? Leo asked, tightening his grip on his backpack straps. Not today, I said. We're on a different flight. Technically, we were on the same plane, but we were in a different world. While they shuffled through the cattle call of group for boarding, dragging their oversized suitcases and fighting for overhead bin space, Leo and I were ushered through a side door. Right this way, Mr. Connor, the attendant said, scanning my digital pass. We walked down the jet bridge after everyone else was seated. We turned left. First class. Whoa, Leo whispered as we sat down in the wide leather seats. Dad, are you sure? This looks like really expensive. I had some miles saved up. I lied. It was a partial lie. I had millions of miles, but I paid cash for this. Just enjoy it, bud. Want a Sprite? As the plane taxied, I pulled out my laptop. I needed to prepare. I opened the dossier Elena had sent me about Oceanic Kingdom. CEO Marcus Sterling, currently facing a liquidity crisis due to overexpansion in the Asian market. Looking for a strategic partner to inject capital. Stock price down 12% this quarter. Perfect. It was better than I thought. Brent wasn't just bragging about a client. He was trying to sell to a desperate company. And if I knew Brent, he would smell that desperation and try to squeeze them for a commission, probably promising things he couldn't deliver. I looked out the window as we took off. I thought about the last family gathering. It was Christmas. I had bought Leo a coding kit, something simple, $60. Brent had bought his son Toby a PlayStation 5 and a new iPhone. My dad had made a toast to Brent for always showing us what success looks like. Success. I looked at Leo, who was currently marveling at the fact that his seat could massage his back. Dad, it has a remote. He beamed. That smile. That was success. And I was about to defend it with everything I had. We landed in San Diego 4 hours later. The text from Brent came through as soon as I turned off airplane mode. Landed. Absolute nightmare. Luggage took forever. Waiting for the shuttle bus to the hotel now. It's packed. Glad you didn't come, you'd hate the crowds. We'll send postcards. I smirked, waiting for the shuttle bus. We walked off the plane. A woman in a sharp navy blazer was waiting at the gate holding a tablet with my name on it. Not on a piece of cardboard, on a digital screen. Mr. Connor? She asked. Yes. I'm Patricia, your VIP liaison. Welcome to San Diego. The car is waiting tarmac side, but since we docked at the gate, I have a cart ready to take you to the private exit. We hopped onto a golf cart that whisked us past the baggage claim nightmare. I saw the back of my dad's head as he argued with a baggage agent. We zipped right past them, invisible in our speed. Outside, the California sun was blinding. And there it was, the Rolls-Royce Phantom. It was jet black, massive, and gleaming like a polished diamond. A chauffeur in a full suit and cap stood by the open rear door. Leo stopped dead in his tracks. Dad, is that for us? Hop in, Leo. But that's a Rolls-Royce. I saw one in a rap video once. Are we stealing it? I laughed out loud. No, we're renting it. Come on. We slid into the back. It smelled like expensive leather and silence. The door closed with a solid, heavy thud that shut out the noise of the airport completely. There was a chilled bottle of sparkling apple cider waiting for Leo and a glass of champagne for me. To San Diego, I said, clinking my glass against his bottle. To San Diego, Leo chirped, his eyes wide as saucers. The drive to the resort took 40 minutes. We glided down the highway. As we approached Oceanic Kingdom, I saw the massive gates, the crowds of tourists, the long lines of minivans and shuttle buses waiting to get in. Our driver, Arthur, didn't slow down for the main gate. He veered left, toward a smaller, unguarded road that wound up the cliffside. Where are we going? Leo asked. The park is back there. We're entering through the Emperor's Gate, I said. The car climbed higher. The view opened up, the Pacific Ocean stretching out endlessly blue. We pulled up to a set of wrought iron gates that opened automatically. Inside, it wasn't a hotel. It was a sanctuary. Separate villas dotted the cliffside, each with its own infinity pool. The car stopped in front of the main reception of the VIP wing. It was quiet here. No screaming kids, no loudspeaker music. Just the sound of the ocean and the wind in the palm trees. We checked in. The staff treated us like royalty. Not because of who I was, but because of what I was paying. Your brother checked in about 10 minutes ago, Elena texted me. They are in the deluxe family tower. Room 402. View of the parking lot. I replied, we are in the villa. View of everything. Dad, look, Leo shouted. He was standing on the balcony of our villa. I walked out. Below us, the entire park was spread out like a toy set. We could see the roller coasters, the whale tanks, the stadiums. But we were above it all, separated by height and luxury. This is amazing, Leo breathed. It gets better, I said. Put on your swim trunks. We're going to the pool. The hotel pool? No, the lagoons. We changed. I wore my plain navy trunks. Leo wore his board shorts that were slightly faded from chlorine. We took a private elevator down from the cliffside to the VIP lagoon. It was a series of interconnected pools that wound through a tropical garden. It was exclusive, but it connected to the main high-end pool area where the deluxe guests, like my brother, would be. I wanted to be seen, but I wanted to be seen on my terms. We found 2 lounge chairs under a cabana. A waiter appeared instantly with towels and a menu. I'll have a lemonade, Leo said shyly. And a club sandwich, I added, with extra fries. We settled in. The sun was warm. Leo jumped into the water, swimming laps with that boundless energy he had. I watched him, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. Then I heard it, the voice that could grate cheese. I'm telling you, Sarah, this is the life. This is what hard work gets you. Brent. I turned my head slightly behind my sunglasses. About 50 feet away, separated by a low velvet rope that divided the VIP section from the deluxe section, was my family. Brent was wearing designer swim trunks that looked too tight. My dad was drinking a beer. My mom was criticizing Sarah's sunscreen application. And Toby, my nephew, was complaining that the water was too cold. They were crowded around 2 umbrellas, fighting for shade. We had an entire cabana to ourselves. Leo surfaced near the edge of the pool, right near the rope. Toby saw him first. Hey, look, Toby pointed. It's Leo. Brent froze. He lowered his sunglasses. My dad squinted. What the hell? Brent muttered. He walked up to the rope. Leo? What are you doing here? Leo looked up, water dripping from his hair. He looked small next to the imposing figure of his uncle. Hi, Uncle Brent, Leo said cheerfully. Dad brought me. Your dad. Brent scanned the area. His eyes landed on me. I slowly sat up, took a sip of my iced tea, and lowered my sunglasses. Hey, Brent, I called out. Nice trunks. Brent's face went through a complex series of gymnastics. Confusion, shock, anger. Connor? He shouted across the divide. How did you? You said you weren't coming. I said we'd make our own plans, I corrected. And we did. But how did you get in there? Brent pointed at the cabana, at the gold wristbands we were wearing. That's the Emperor section. You can't just sneak in there, Connor. Security is tight. I didn't sneak in, I said calmly. I checked in. My mom walked up to the rope. Connor, you spent your savings on this? Just to show off? Oh, honey, that is so irresponsible. You need that money for Leo's college fund, not for this. Don't worry about Leo's college, Mom, I said. It's fully funded. Bullshit, Brent scoffed. You probably maxed out a credit card. Listen, don't come over here asking for handouts when the bill comes. We have a strict budget for this trip. I wouldn't dream of it, I said. Just then, a waiter walked up to me. Mr. Connor? The resort manager, Mr. Sterling, wanted to know if you'd like to schedule your private shark dive for tomorrow morning or afternoon. Brent heard it. Private shark dive. Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling? Brent whispered. The CEO? I looked at the waiter. Tell Marcus morning is fine. Oh, and can we get another round of fries? Of course, sir. I looked back at Brent. He looked like he'd been slapped with a wet fish. He was staring at me, trying to reconcile the brother he thought was a failure with the man being served by the CEO's staff. You know Marcus Sterling? Brent asked, his voice suddenly losing its edge. I know of him, I said vague. Anyway, enjoy the deluxe pool. It looks cozy. I put my sunglasses back on and lay back down. Come on, Leo, I said. Let's order dessert. Leo climbed out of the pool, grinning. He grabbed a fry. That was awesome, Dad. Did you see Toby's face? He looked like he swallowed a bug. Eat your fries, kid. I smiled. But I knew this was just the jab. The knockout punch was still coming. The next morning, the gap between my family and us grew wider, even though we were physically only a few hundred yards apart. While they were standing in line for the buffet breakfast, I saw Sarah post a picture of the huge line on Instagram with a crying emoji. Leo and I were eating eggs Benedict on our private terrace, watching the sun hit the ocean. So, what's the plan today? Leo asked, wiping hollandaise sauce from his lip. Today, I said, checking my phone. We have a meeting with some dolphins. And then, I have a little work to do. Work? Leo frowned. You said no work. This is the fun kind of work. The kind where I buy things. We spent the morning at the private marine center. This wasn't the public show where you sit in bleachers and watch Shamu jump. This was a research facility behind the park. Leo was in heaven. He got to feed a sea turtle. He helped the trainers weigh a baby seal. He was asking questions that even the biologists were impressed by. He's sharp, the head trainer told me. Most kids just want to take a selfie. He wants to know about the filtration systems. He works hard, I said, watching Leo scrub the shell of a turtle with focused intensity. He knows what goes into things. Around noon, I got the text from Elena. Meeting set with Sterling. 4 p.m. He's intrigued. He reviewed your portfolio. He knows who you are now. Good. I left Leo with the trainers for an hour. He was safe and happy, and went to the administration building. Marcus Sterling was a tall man in his 50s, looking tired. His office was huge, but the stress lines on his face were deeper. Mr. Connor, He stood up, extending a hand. Or should I say, the mysterious angel investor my board has been whispering about. Connor is fine, I said, sitting down. You have a very impressive track record in tech, Sterling said, looking at a file. But hospitality? Why oceanic? My son likes the dolphins, I said simply. And I see potential. You have great assets, terrible liquidity. I can fix the liquidity. For 51% controlling interest. Sterling choked on his water. 51%? That's a takeover. It's a lifeline, I corrected. I keep you on as CEO. I keep the staff. I invest in infrastructure. But I own the board. And I want to clean up the sales division. Sterling looked at me. He knew the numbers. He knew he was sinking. I have another offer, he said weakly. A firm representing a Mr. Brent. My brother, I interrupted. He doesn't have the money, Marcus. He's a middleman. He's gonna leverage your debt to get a loan, strip the assets, and leave you with a shell. I'm offering cash. Today. Sterling paused. He looked at the photo of his own kids on his desk. Cash today. Wire transfer is ready. He extended his hand. Welcome to Oceanic, partner. One condition, I said, shaking his hand. Nobody knows until dinner tonight, and I want to host a dinner at the Azure Undersea restaurant. The best table. And I want you to invite my brother and his family. Tell them the chairman wants to meet the potential new partners. Sterling smiled. It was the first time he looked relaxed. You have a flair for the dramatic, Connor. You have no idea. I went back to the villa. I needed a suit. I didn't pack a suit. I had brought jeans and t-shirts. But money solves logistics. The resort had a high-end boutique. I walked in. I need a tuxedo, I told the tailor, and a suit for my son. We have 3 hours. The tailor looked at my swimming trunks. Sir, bespoke usually takes. I placed my black card on the glass counter. 3 hours. Right this way, sir. At 6 p.m., the invitation was delivered to Brent's room. I wasn't there to see it, but I can imagine the scene. A staff member in white gloves knocking on their door. Brent opening it, probably in his bathrobe. The envelope with the gold wax seal. The chairman of Oceanic Kingdom cordially invites Mr. Brent and family to a private dinner at Azure to discuss the future of our partnership. Brent must have lost his mind. At 6:30 p.m., my phone blew up. Brent, bro, you won't believe this. The chairman wants to meet me. The deal is basically done. We're going to Azure. It's the most expensive restaurant in the city. Mom, so proud of Brent. Finally getting the recognition he deserves. We are going to a gala dinner. I texted back, wow, sounds amazing. Have fun. Brent, maybe if you hang around the lobby later, we can bring you some dessert in a doggy bag. LOL. I looked at Leo. He was standing in front of the full-length mirror, adjusting his bow tie. He looked handsome. He looked grown up. Do I look okay, Dad? He asked nervously. Is this too much? You look like $1 million, Leo, I said, straightening his lapel. Actually, you look like 50 million. I put on my own jacket. It was midnight blue, cut perfectly to my shoulders. I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't see the tired freelancer anymore. I saw the man who had built an empire in silence. Dad, why are we dressing up? Leo asked. Are we going to dinner too? We are, I said. We're going to meet your uncle. But they said we wouldn't fit in. I knelt down so I was eye level with him. Leo, listen to me. People like Brent, they think fitting in means having the right car or the right clothes. But real power, real success, it's about who you are. It's about how you treat people. Tonight, we're going to show them that you belong anywhere you want to be. Okay? Okay. He nodded. Let's go. The Rolls-Royce was waiting to take us from the villa to the restaurant, which was only a 5-minute drive down the hill. As we drove down, I felt a calm settle over me. This wasn't just revenge. This was an exorcism. I was exorcising the years of doubt, the years of my parents making me feel small, the years of Brent treating me like a charity case. We pulled up to the entrance of Azure. It was a spectacular building shaped like a shell, built halfway into the water. A valet opened the door. "Good evening, Mr. Chairman," he said. I smiled. "Good evening." Azure was breathtaking. The walls were thick glass, looking directly into the shark tank. Hammerheads and rays glided past the tables. The lighting was dim and blue, the tablecloths were white linen, and the silverware was heavy silver. I asked the hostess to hold us back for a moment. I wanted them to be seated first. From the shadows of the entryway, I watched them arrive. Brent was wearing a suit that was a little too shiny. Sarah looked beautiful but anxious. My parents were beaming, walking with their chins held high, looking around to see if anyone was watching them. Toby and Jessica were on their phones, looking bored. They were led to a round table near the glass. But, and this was my specific instruction, it wasn't the best table. It was a side table. The center table, the one on the raised platform with the panoramic view, was empty, set for two. I watched them sit. I saw Brent snap his fingers at a waiter. "Champagne," I heard him say loudly. "The best you have. Put it on the Sterling account." The waiter hesitated, then nodded. "Of course, sir." They toasted. They laughed. My dad slapped Brent on the back. "To the new vice president of operations," my dad announced. "To the money." Brent laughed. It was time. I nodded to the hostess. "We're ready." She led the way. Leo walked beside me, his head high. We walked into the main dining room. The sound of our dress shoes on the marble floor was crisp. At first, they didn't see us. They were too busy taking selfies with the sharks in the background. Then Toby looked up. "Dad." Toby nudged Brent. "Is that Uncle Connor?" Brent spun around in his chair. The glass of champagne stopped halfway to his mouth. I walked right past their table. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I walked straight to the center table, the raised one, the best one. The waiter pulled out the chair for Leo, then for me. The entire room went silent. My family stared at us with their mouths open. It was comical. It was cartoonish. Brent stood up. He looked confused, angry, and panicked all at once. He marched over to our table. "Connor," he hissed. "What the hell are you doing? This is the chairman's table. You can't sit here. We are waiting for Mr. Sterling. Get up before you get arrested." I picked up the menu. "Hello, Brent, Sarah, Mom, Dad, Connor." My dad stood up too, his face red. "This is not a joke. Get up. You are embarrassing us. Security is going to throw you out." Actually, a voice boomed from the entrance. Marcus Sterling walked in. He was followed by two assistants. Brent's face lit up. He smoothed his jacket. "Mr. Sterling, so good to meet you. I'm so sorry about this. This is my brother. He's a bit unstable. I was just asking him to leave." Sterling looked at Brent. Then he looked at me. "Leave?" Sterling asked. "Why would the owner leave his own table?" The silence that followed was heavy. It was absolute. "Owner," Brent whispered. What do you mean?" Sterling walked over to my table and shook my hand. "Good evening, Connor. The transfer is complete. The funds cleared 10 minutes ago. You officially own 51% of Oceanic Kingdom." I turned to Brent. "You wanted to meet the chairman, Brent?" I said, my voice calm, leveled. "You're looking at him." Brent looked at Sterling. Is this a joke?" "No joke," Sterling said coldly. "Connor bought the controlling stake. He is now the primary decision-maker for all vendor contracts, including the one you're pitching." My mother sat down heavily, clutching her chest. "Connor? You have money?" "I have a lot of money, Mom," I said. "I've had it for years. I just didn't feel the need to buy a leased Porsche to prove it." Brent turned pale. "Connor, bro, I didn't know. Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you told me I wouldn't fit in," I said. "Remember the text. Leo doesn't belong. Embarrassing for the family image. I looked at Leo. He was eating a breadstick, watching the scene with wide eyes. Does he look like he fits in now, Brent? I asked. Connor, come on. Brent stammered, sweating now. It was just a miscommunication. We were stressed. You know how it is. Hey, about that contract. This is great. We can keep it in the family. We can make millions together. Stop, I said. We can restructure the deal. I can give you a discount. Stop, I said louder. Connor, please. I need this deal. I really need this deal. Why? I asked. You're the golden child. You're rich. You have the house, the cars. Brent looked down. It's all debt, Connor. Everything. The house is mortgaged to the hilt. The cars are leased. I haven't made a commission in 6 months. If I don't get this deal, I lose everything. My dad looked at Brent. What? But you said. I lied. Brent snapped at Dad. Okay. I lied. I needed the money. That's why I asked you for the loan last month. I looked at my parents. You gave him a loan? My mom looked down, shame washing over her face. We cashed out your father's 401k. He said it was a sure thing. An investment. You gave him your retirement money? I asked, stunned. The money you told me didn't exist when I needed help with Leo's braces 2 years ago? We thought, Dad stammered. We thought Brent was the safe bet. I laughed. Couldn't help it. It was a bitter, hollow laugh. The safe bet, I repeated. And now he's broke. And you're broke. Connor, Sarah spoke up. Her voice was shaking. We didn't know. I didn't know about the 401k. I looked at Sarah. She was the only one I felt sorry for. I believe you, Sarah, I said. I turned back to Brent. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Mr. Sterling is going to audit your proposal. If it's good, and I mean really good, not just fluff, we might consider it. But I'm not doing it because we're family. I'm doing it strictly business. And knowing your numbers, Brent, it's probably not good. Connor, please, Brent begged. Don't do this. I'm not doing anything, I said. You did this. You built a life on lies and arrogance. And you tried to make my son feel small to make yourself feel big. I motioned to the waiter. Please escort these guests out of the VIP dining area, I said. This area is for members only, and their passes are for the deluxe zone. You're kicking us out? Mom cried. We're your parents. You're the people who watched my son walk in the rain to deliver papers and didn't offer him a ride because you didn't want to get your leather seats wet, I said. Go enjoy the buffet. The security guards stepped forward. Sir? Ma'am? The guard said politely. Brent looked at me one last time. There was no arrogance left, just fear. They stood up. It was the longest walk of their lives. The whole restaurant watched them leave. The Golden family escorted out like rowdy teenagers. When they were gone, the silence returned to the table. Mr. Sterling sat down. That was intense. It was necessary, I said. I felt drained, but I also felt lighter. Leo looked at me. Dad? Are Grandma and Grandpa okay? They will be, I said. They have each other, and they have their success story. I looked at the menu. Now, I said to Leo, do you want the lobster or the steak? Can I have both? Leo asked. You own the place, kid. I smiled. You can have whatever you want. The rest of the dinner was a blur of excellent food and adrenaline crash. I had done it. I had pulled the trigger. But looking at Leo, I realized the victory wasn't in the humiliation of my brother. It was in the way the staff treated Leo with respect. Not because I demanded it, but because he was kind to them. When we got back to the villa, my phone was flashing. 11 missed calls from Mom, 4 from Dad, 3 lengthy text messages from Brent. I turned the phone off. Dad, Leo said, sitting on the edge of the infinity pool, dangling his feet in the water. The underwater lights made the pool glow turquoise. Is Uncle Brent really poor? He's not poor in the way most people are poor, I explained, sitting next to him. He has things, but he owes more money than he has. That's called being insolvent. It's worse than being poor, because you're trapped by your own image. I like our life better, Leo said. Even with the F-150. Me too, bud. The next morning, the reality set in. I was sitting on the terrace having coffee when there was a knock at the door. Not the service knock. A hesitant, human knock. I opened it. It was Sarah. Her eyes were red. She wasn't wearing makeup. She looked 10 years older than she had the night before. "Can I come in?" she asked. "Where's Brent?" I asked, stepping aside. "He's in the room, screaming at credit card companies on the phone. He's trying to liquidate his stocks. But there's nothing there." She walked to the railing and looked out at the ocean. "I'm leaving him, Connor," she said. I wasn't surprised. "Does he know?" "Not yet. I've known about the gambling for a while. But the 401k, stealing from your parents? That was the last straw. I can't raise Toby and Jessica in that house of cards." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know." She wiped a tear. "I have a law degree I haven't used in 10 years. Maybe I'll go back to work. But I need a lawyer, a divorce lawyer, and I don't have access to our accounts anymore." "I'll pay for it," I said instantly. She looked at me. "I can't ask you that. You didn't ask. I offered. For the kids. They shouldn't suffer because their dad is an idiot." She nodded, sobbing silently. "Thank you, Connor. You were always the good one. I don't know why Linda and Robert couldn't see that." "They saw what they wanted to see," I said. Later that afternoon, I went down to the administration building to sign the final paperwork with Sterling. When I walked out, I saw my parents sitting on a bench near the exit. They had their suitcases. They looked small, defeated. My mom stood up when she saw me. "Connor," she said. Her voice was trembling. "We're leaving. We can't afford the hotel anymore. Brent's card was declined." "Okay," I said. "We have to fly standby," my dad added, looking at his shoes. "Connor, about the money, the retirement fund. Is there any way, since you own the company now, maybe you could give Brent an advance? So he can pay us back?" I stared at them. Even now, even after everything, they were still trying to fix Brent's mess using my resources. "No," I said. "Connor," Mom cried. "He's your brother. And I'm your son," I said. "The one you mocked. The one you ignored. I'm not giving Brent a dime. If he wants money, he can get a job. I hear the resort is hiring shuttle drivers. He likes driving, right?" "You're cruel," Mom spat. "I'm fair," I said. "You bet on the wrong horse. Now you have to walk home." I signaled to Arthur, who brought the Rolls-Royce around. "Get in," I told Leo, who had walked up beside me. "Are we giving them a ride?" Leo asked, looking at his grandparents. "No," I said. "We're going to get ice cream." As we drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. My parents were standing on the curb, arguing with each other. Brent was nowhere to be seen. The rest of the week was perfect. Leo and I rode every roller coaster. We ate in the underwater restaurant 3 more times. We swam with sharks. But the best part wasn't the luxury. It was the conversation. Without the shadow of my family hanging over us, Leo blossomed. He talked about his ideas for a robotics club. He talked about how he wanted to invest his paper route money in stocks now that he understood how it worked. On the last day, we were sitting in the airport, private lounge this time, waiting for our flight home. My phone rang. It was Brent. I debated not answering, but I needed closure. "Hello, Brent." "Connor." His voice was cracked. He sounded drunk or exhausted or both. "Sarah served me papers. At the hotel. A process server walked up to me in the lobby." "I know," I said. "Did you pay for her lawyer?" "Yes." Silence. Long, heavy silence. "Why do you hate me so much?" Brent asked. It sounded like a genuine question. "I don't hate you, Brent," I said. "I just don't respect you. You spent your whole life trying to prove you were better than everyone else. You treated me like dirt. You treated my son like dirt. And you did it with money that wasn't even yours. I was just trying to make Mom and Dad proud, he whispered. Well, they're broke now because of you, I said. So good job. I'm going to jail, Connor, he said. The audit. Sterling found the discrepancies in my previous contracts. They're pressing charges for fraud. I felt a pang of pity, but it was fleeting. Then you better find a good public defender, I said, because I'm not paying for that either. I hung up. I looked at Leo. He was reading a book about marine biology. Ready to go home? I asked. Yeah, he said. I miss my bike. We flew home. We drove back to our apartment in the F-150. It was raining. The apartment was cold. But as I walked in, I didn't see a shabby apartment anymore. I saw a home. I walked over to the fridge. I took out a marker. I crossed out oceanic trip on the calendar. Then I took $100 bill out of my wallet and put it in Leo's jar. Dad, Leo asked, what's that for? Consulting fee, I smiled. You helped me close a big deal this week. Leo grinned. Dad, yeah. Even if we didn't go to the fancy resort, even if we just stayed here, I think you're pretty cool. I hugged him tight. Thanks, buddy. My phone buzzed one last time. It was a notification from the bank. The quarterly dividends from my new acquisition, Oceanic Kingdom, were projected to be substantial. I put the phone down. I had won. Not just the game, but the war. I had protected my son. I had exposed the truth. And I had done it without losing myself. Brent was in a cell. My parents were in a rental. And I was here in my kitchen, making hot chocolate for the coolest kid in the world. Life was good. The silence of my apartment had changed. Before the trip to San Diego, the silence felt heavy, filled with the things I wasn't saying to my family and the secrets I was keeping. Now, a month later, the silence was peaceful. It was the sound of a clean slate. But while my home was peaceful, the world outside was burning down for the rest of my family. Started on a Tuesday, exactly 4 weeks after we returned. I was in my home office, which was really just a desk in the corner of the living room, reviewing the quarterly projections for Oceanic Kingdom. The numbers were good. Marcus Sterling was a brilliant operator. He just needed capital and a leash on the sales department. We had fired the entire upper management of the sales team. The culture of fake it till you make it that Brent had thrived in was gone. There was a knock at the door. I checked the peephole. It was Sarah. I hadn't seen her since she stood on my terrace crying. She looked different now. She was wearing jeans and a simple sweater, not the designer dresses she used to wear to impress my mother. Her hair was pulled back. She looked tired, yes, but she also looked lighter. Hey, she said when I opened the door. She was holding a manila envelope. I wanted to drop these off. It's the signed paperwork for the loan you gave me for the lawyer. I insisted on a repayment plan. I told you, consider it a gift for the kids, I said, ushering her in. No, she shook her head firmly. I need to pay it back. I need to know I can stand on my own 2 feet. Brent never let me handle money. He said it was man's work. I need to do this. I respected that. Coffee, please. We sat at my small kitchen table. The same table where I had read Brent's text message that started this whole war. How are they? I asked. Toby and Jessica? Confused, Sarah admitted, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. They're asking why we had to sell the SUV, why we're moving into a condo. But Toby, he actually seems relieved. He told me yesterday that Dad used to make him so nervous because he was always screaming about scratches on the car or stains on the rug. Now that Brent isn't there, the house is calm. And Brent, Sarah took a deep breath. He's out on bail, staying with your parents. But the trial is set for next month. His lawyer, the public defender, says the evidence of fraud is overwhelming. He forged signatures, Connor. He created fake vendors and funneled commission fees into his own accounts. It wasn't just bad business. It was criminal. I nodded. I knew this. The audit I ordered had uncovered everything. There's something else, Sarah said, sliding the envelope across the table. I found this when I was packing up his home office. It's an email draft he wrote to your parents 3 months ago, before the trip was even booked. I opened the envelope. It was a printout. Subject: The Connor problem, Mom. Dad, we need to make sure Connor doesn't come to San Diego. I know you want the whole family there for the photo op, but it's too risky. Connor isn't stupid. If he gets around Sterling or any of the investors, he might ask questions. He understands numbers. If he sees how desperate I am to close this deal, or if he sees the cracks in my story, he could blow the whole thing. Plus, having his kid there in cheap clothes ruins the aesthetic I'm selling. We need to cut him out. Tell him it's about fitting in. Make him feel small so he stays away. I need this deal to save the house. I stared at the paper. The anger I felt wasn't the hot, explosive kind anymore. It was a cold, hard realization. It wasn't just snobbery, I whispered. It was fear. He was terrified of you, Sarah said softly. He always has been. You were the smart one, the authentic one. He knew he was a fraud, and he knew that if you got close enough, you'd see it. So he spent his whole life pushing you away, making you feel inferior so you wouldn't look too closely at him. I put the paper down. It was the final piece of the puzzle. All those years of insults, of being told I wasn't good enough, of being excluded. It wasn't because I was a failure. It was because I was a threat. Thank you for showing me this, I said. I thought you should know. Sarah stood up. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you sooner, Connor. I was scared too. But I'm not anymore. After Sarah left, I felt a strange need to see it for myself. Not the email, but the reality. My parents were being evicted. They had sold their house to cover Brent's initial legal fees and the debts he had racked up in their names. But it wasn't enough. They were moving into a small rental property on the other side of town today. I drove the F-150 over to their old house, the house I grew up in. The house where Brent's trophies were on the mantle and my achievements were in a box in the attic. There was a moving truck in the driveway. A cheap one. My dad was struggling with a sofa. He looked old. He had lost weight. My mom was carrying a box of china, her face set in a grim, angry line. I pulled up to the curb but didn't get out. I just rolled down the window. My dad saw me. He stopped, wiping sweat from his forehead. He looked at my truck, then at me. There was no defiance left in his eyes, just exhaustion. Brent came out of the house. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wearing sweatpants, holding a box of what looked like his golf trophies. He froze when he saw me. I expected him to yell, to scream, to blame me for ruining his life. Instead, he just walked over to the truck, put the box down, and walked toward my window. Are you here to gloat? He asked. His voice was raspy. No, I said. Sarah showed me the email. The one where you said I was a risk. Brent flinched. He looked away, down the suburban street he could no longer afford to live on. You were always the risk, Connor, he muttered. You didn't play the game. You didn't care about the image. It drove me crazy. I was working 80 hours a week to keep up appearances, drowning in debt to buy the right watch, the right car, and you were just happy, with your beat-up truck and your kid. I wasn't just happy, Brent, I said. I was free. You built your own prison. Yeah, well, he gestured to the moving truck. Now I'm going to a real one. My mother walked over. She looked at me with a mixture of hatred and desperation. If you have any decency, she hissed, you'll help us. We are moving into a 2-bedroom apartment. Your father has a bad back. We have nothing left, Connor. Nothing. You have exactly what you invested in, I said calmly. You invested everything in Brent. You gave him your money, your pride, your attention. You bet the farm on the golden child. This is the return on that investment. How can you be so cold? She cried. I'm your mother. And when I was a struggling single dad, eating ramen so Leo could have new shoes, where were you? I asked. You were at the country club with Brent. When Leo was in the hospital for his appendix and I needed someone to watch him for 2 hours so I could work, you said you were busy getting a manicure for Brent's promotion party. She fell silent. The memory hit her. I'm not cold, Mom, I said, putting the truck in gear. I'm just mirroring the energy you gave me for 34 years. I hope you guys find peace. I really do. But you won't find it in my bank account. I rolled up the window. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror one last time. I saw Brent sitting on the curb, his head in his hands. I saw my parents arguing over a lamp. It was a tragedy. But it wasn't my tragedy anymore. When I got home, Leo was in the driveway. He was holding a wrench. Hey, Dad, he shouted. Look, he pointed to the bike. It wasn't the used one from Craigslist. While I was out, a delivery truck had arrived. I had ordered it 2 days ago. It was a brand new, top-of-the-line mountain bike. Matte black, professional suspension. It came with a note, Leo said, holding up a card. I knew what it said. To Leo, for earning every mile. Love, Dad. Dad, this is expensive, Leo said, his eyes wide. I only have $300 in the jar. Keep the jar, I said, getting out of the truck. Use it for a helmet, or save it for a car. The bike is a bonus. You worked for 8 months, Leo. You showed up every day. That dedication? That's worth more than the bike. Leo ran over and hugged me. It was one of those rib-crushing hugs that only a kid can give. I'm gonna take it for a spin, he yelled. Wear a helmet, I shouted back. I watched him ride down the street, the sun setting behind him. He was fast. He was free. He wasn't weighed down by expectations or lies. I went inside and opened my laptop. I had one last email to send. To the board of directors at Oceanic Kingdom. Subject: Strategic restructuring, sales division effective immediately. We are implementing a new policy. No more high-pressure sales. No more hidden fees. We are pivoting to value-based hospitality. We are going to be the resort for families who save up for a year to visit, not just the elite. We are going to be honest. And one more thing. I'm establishing a scholarship fund for the children of our employees. It will be named the Leo Initiative. Sent. I closed the laptop. The sun had set. The room was dark, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of the dark. I knew exactly who I was. 6 months passed. The seasons changed. The leaves turned orange, then brown, and the first snow began to fall. Life settled into a rhythm that was beautifully, luxuriously normal. I didn't move out of the apartment. Not yet. Leo wanted to finish the school year with his friends, and honestly, I liked the reminder of where we came from. But we did make some upgrades. New furniture, a massive TV for movie nights, and yes, I finally traded the F-150. I kept it, actually parked it in storage as a keepsake and bought a sensible, safe SUV. Not a flashy one, just a safe one. The sentencing hearing for Brent was on a Tuesday in November. I didn't go. I didn't need to see him in handcuffs to know it was real. Sarah went mostly for closure. She called me afterward. 3 years, she said. Minimum security, but still. 3 years. How did he take it? I asked. He cried, she said. He blamed the judge. He blamed the lawyer. He blamed you. He hasn't changed, Connor. He still thinks the world owes him something. I'm sorry, I said. Don't be, she said. Her voice was strong. I got a job, Connor. A real one. I'm a paralegal at a firm downtown. It's entry-level, but I'm paying my own rent. And Toby is doing great. He's in therapy. He's starting to be a kid again, instead of a mini Brent. That's the best news I've heard all year, I said. My parents were a different story. They were living in the rental, surviving on Social Security and whatever odd jobs Dad could find. I sent them a grocery gift card once a month. Anonymous. No note. Just enough to make sure they didn't starve, but not enough to control them or let them control me. It was a boundary, thin as a wire but strong as steel. They called occasionally, leaving voicemails about how hard things were, hoping guilt would work where anger hadn't. I listened, deleted, and moved on. One evening, Leo and I were sitting on the couch. He was 13 now, taller. His voice was starting to crack. "Dad," he said, looking up from his tablet. "I saw something online today about Oceanic Kingdom." "Oh yeah?" I asked, sipping my tea. "Yeah. It says the company just posted record profits, and that the mystery owner has donated $1 million to ocean conservation." He looked at me with a knowing smirk. "Is that you?" "Maybe." I winked. "Why?" "It's cool," he said. "But why don't you tell people? Why don't you do interviews? Uncle Brent would have been on TV every day." I put my tea down. This was it. The final lesson. "Leo," I said, "do you remember the day at the resort? When we walked into the restaurant?" "Yeah." Uncle Brent looked like he was gonna throw up. "He did." I laughed. "But remember why we did it? We didn't do it to be famous. We didn't do it to get people to clap for us. We did it to prove a point. That character matters more than reputation." I leaned forward. If I go on TV, if I start living for the applause, I become him. I become the guy who needs strangers to validate him. I don't need that. I have you. I have my work. I have my peace. That's real wealth, Leo. The ability to do what is right without needing an audience. Leo thought about that for a long time. "So, we're like Batman?" he asked. "Rich but secret?" I burst out laughing. "Yeah, kid. We're exactly like Batman. Except with less spandex. Can we get a Batmobile?" "Don't push your luck." The year ended on a quiet note. New Year's Eve. We didn't go to a party. We drove out to the lake, just the two of us. We sat on the hood of the new SUV, wrapped in blankets, drinking hot cocoa from a thermos. The fireworks from the city were visible in the distance, tiny sparks of light against the dark sky. I thought about the journey, the pain of the rejection, the thrill of the purchase, the sadness of the family breakup. It had been a hard road. But as I looked at Leo, watching the fireworks with wonder in his eyes, I realized I had saved more than just my dignity. I had saved his future. I had broken the cycle of entitlement, of favoring one child over the other, of valuing money over love. It ended with me. Leo would grow up knowing that money is a tool, not a god. He would know that family is about who shows up, not who shares DNA. "Happy New Year, Dad," Leo said, leaning his head on my shoulder. "Happy New Year, son," I said. I took a deep breath of the cold, crisp air. Tasted like freedom. And somewhere, in a prison cell, my brother was realizing that the golden child was just painted brass all along. But here, on this lakeshore, everything was real. Everything was solid. And that was enough. So that's my story. It's a wild ride, I know. From being the black sheep of the family to owning the empire, it feels like a movie. But real life is often crazier than fiction. As I look back on everything that happened with Brent and my parents, there are 3 massive lessons I want to share with you guys. First, money doesn't change people. It amplifies who they really are. For Brent, money, or the appearance of it, amplified his insecurity and arrogance. He used it as a shield and a weapon. For me, money was just a tool to protect the people I love and to enforce boundaries. If you're a jerk when you're poor, you'll be a tyrant when you're rich. If you're kind when you're broke, you'll be a philanthropist when you're wealthy. Work on your character first. The bank account is secondary. Second, enabling is not love. My parents thought they were loving Brent by bailing him out, by praising him constantly, by hiding his failures. They weren't loving him. They were crippling him. They created a man-child who couldn't handle the word no. By letting him fail, by letting him face the consequences, I showed him more respect in one dinner than they did in 30 years. Real love is holding people accountable. Third, your value is not determined by someone else's inability to see your worth. This is the big one. My family treated me like a failure. If I had listened to them, I would have stayed small. I would have believed I didn't belong in that resort. But I knew the truth. Don't let toxic family members write your narrative. You hold the pen. You write the story. I want to hear from you guys now. What was your favorite moment? Was it the Rolls-Royce pulling up? Or was it the moment the CEO shook my hand? Drop a comment below with the word good if you agree that character is worth more than cash. Or tell me, have you ever had to cut off a toxic family member to save your own peace? Let's talk about it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about justice, karma, and the long road to success. Thanks for watching, and remember, the best revenge is a life well lived.